And so when I say Chinese, I want you to scream out the nation that's associated with this. For example, if I say Chinese, you're going to say what?
China.
All right, let's say it with authority. When I say Chinese, you say what?
China.
All right, that's just a test right there. So here we go. Chinese.
China.
Russian.
Russia.
Italian.
Italy.
German.
Germany.
Swedish.
Sweden.
Korean.
Korea.
Egyptian.
Egypt.
Nigerian.
Nigeria.
Black.
Exactly. Nothing. Tell him, Pastor. Tell him, Pastor. Black, nothing.
I hope you were able to successfully identify the issue.
The lion won't sleep tonight, 'cause we woke now, and we woke now. I said the lion won't sleep tonight, 'cause we woke now, and we woke now. They want us to sell our souls to barter profit, like God property. It's hard to market, so we steady to aim, keep your eyes on target. 'Cause when you got to drive, yeah, they'd rather you park it. But I don't valet, you ain't getting these keys. I'm keeping closed hands, I'm on bended knee. I'm just a reflection, dealing with 8 sections. Art mixed with life, you can feel the convection. Your lion won't sleep tonight, 'cause we woke now, and we woke now. I said the lion won't sleep tonight, 'cause we woke now, and we woke now. I said
The same people that have stripped us of our identity and labeled us as a color have told us what it means to be black.
You know what you are? You're an ancient Israelite.
Ancient is there. That's who we are. That's who we are. So if you give me time, if you give me time,
But
all that he said.
I know. We don't have.
So many years.
I know. Look at this. This is pages and pages of
Yes.
notes. And I promise we'll give more teaching. But here is my challenge to you.
All right.
I'm hearing some of your traditions. It's like the days of the Bible.
Yes.
Do you want to remain ancient Israelites, or you want to be Jews? Do you want to?
We are the party of common sense. I knew that once they had open borders, all of the countries, I didn't think about all over the world. I thought in South America, it's all over the world. Last week, a lot of people came in from the Congo, a big prison in the Congo in Africa. Welcome to the United States. They came in from the Congo. They came in from the Congo. They came in from the Congo.
Hitler was, and the Nazis, of course, expanded on Margaret Sanger's approach to eugenics, right? Eugenics was a movement that was born in the United States under hard doctrines of racism with the intent of eliminating the tribe of Judah in the African-American community in this country, right? To eliminate them. With the intent of eliminating the tribe of Judah in the African-American community in this country, right? To eliminate them.
With the intent of eliminating the tribe of Judah in the African-American community in this country, right? To eliminate them.
To all my Jewish friends, my Jewish brothers and sisters, stand tall. Stand tall. Do not let this fear, this sadness, this anxiety, and this dread overwhelm you. Draw strength from your family, from your friends, from your ancestors, and the worldwide bond that we share that has always put the battery in your back. We're used to being looked at as different because that's what we are. We are different, and that's a good thing. I know that Jews are looked at as weak, but we're stronger than you can imagine. That's why you hurl propaganda. We control all the money. We control the media because it's plausible. It's plausible because we're just that good. Smart, compassionate, moral, and strong people. And we need to stand taller than ever against all those sick, dumb, uneducated black tar in their blood who hate Jews because they ain't. You hate us because you ain't us.
You know, it's going to be the first woman president. And that's incredibly exciting. And, you know, she's Indian, she's black, she's everything. You can be more than one thing. It's incredible. You know, I'm Jewish and Irish. I wish I was black. Every white Jewish guy wishes he was black. Every white Jewish guy wishes he was black.
Every white Jewish guy wishes he was black.
You can convert to Judaism. You can convert to a blood family. You cannot convert to a race. Judaism is a religion. That's all it is. Judaism is a religion. That's all it is.
Judaism is a religion. That's all it is.
And Michael Brown, I am Caucasian, even though my last name is Brown. Michael Brown, I am Caucasian, even though my last name is Brown. Michael Brown, I am Caucasian.
Michael Brown, I am Caucasian.
I was told welcome home because I'm Jewish. Every single person who's Jewish that steps off the plane, especially for their first time in Israel, is told welcome home. Let's just sit with that for a second. This right here, this is my actual ancestry. I am 88% Ashkenazi Jewish, and none of my ancestors are from the Middle East.
The same people that have stripped us of our identity and labeled us as a color have told us what it means to be black.
The entire Bible is about black people. Not only was Jesus black, but every character in the Bible seems to be black too. Yeah, Zephaniah and Jeremiah and Jebediah, those all aren't white people names, okay? And Jesus wasn't some tan, partially melanated Middle Eastern person either. I'm talking straight up black dude, okay? Even in the book of Revelation, when you get the vision of Daniel, he's describing someone with feet like burnt brass and white woolly hair, and we've got the deep running water voice with the red eyes, and you guys, he's black. The Jewish people are black people, like Kanye was right.
And here's what I would like to say to you, Rabbi, since you're quoting scripture, okay? The one that's relevant to me is woe unto them that call evil good and good evil, that put darkness for light and light for darkness. And if you'd like to dive into a little more scripture, I think what's relevant is Revelation 3:9. Behold, I will make them of the synagogue of Satan, which say they are Jews and are not, but do lie. And I'm speaking directly to you, Rabbi Shmuley. Revelation 3:9. Behold, I will make them of the synagogue of Satan, which say they are Jews and are not, but do lie.
Revelation 3:9. Behold, I will make them of the synagogue of Satan, which say they are Jews and are not, but do lie.
And I'm speaking directly to you, Rabbi Shmuley. And I'm speaking directly to you, Rabbi Shmuley.
And I'm speaking.
So when he's saying he's coming to redeem, while he would say, redeem Israel, O God, out of all their troubles. First thing they need to be redeemed at, more dangerous than Hamas, more dangerous than Muslim neighbors, are internal these, and there's another biblical name, these who say they are Jews and are not.
I was going to ask you about that. Revelation 3:8, I think. I was going to ask you that question. Does that refer to this time, or can it refer to this time?
It can. It's Revelation 3:9. Indeed, I will make those of the synagogue of Satan who say they are Jews and are not, but lie. Yeah. And there's a different application for it.
So we're supposed to we're just being told that anti-Semitism is now criticizing Israel. Anti-Semitism is anything they want it to be. They can't even define it. They admit in this bill that they've passed through the House that there's really truly no actual protection for Jews, but they're just making it up as they go because they want to say, well, but Semites, which we shouldn't even be using that word anymore, because most Jews who practice the religion of Judaism or who are culturally Jewish, even if they don't practice the Jewish religion, but they're culturally Jewish, like many are culturally Christian, Many of us celebrate Christmas, but we're not Christian. That's cultural Christianity. It is what it is, right? They can't define it. They're putting all these rules on us. We shouldn't even allow them to use the term anti-Semitism. It's not real. Most of these Jews are not Semites.
You say, well, where did the name Ashkenazi came from? So, a little over 1,000 years ago, as Jewish people scattered around the world had now emigrated in Europe and now were living in the Rhineland in Germany, they looked at the name Gomer in Genesis 10, and they connected Gomer with Germany, so they took on the identity of the name Ashkenaz. It has nothing to do with Ashkenaz in the Bible, which is a descendant of Japhet. It's just a name that was taken. Okay, it's that simple. Just like my last name Brown doesn't refer to the color of my skin. Just like my last name Brown doesn't refer to the color of my skin.
Just like my last name Brown doesn't refer to the color of my skin.
Michael Brown, I am Caucasian. Just like my last name Brown doesn't refer to the color of my skin or anything else. It was shortened from a Russian name when my grandfather came over at Ellis Island. The name got shortened to Brown. It's just a name. That's all it is. So the idea that Ashkenazi Jews are descended from Japhet is a myth, 100% false, zero truth to it. Just study the history.
Genesis chapter 11, verse 10 explains the genealogy of Shem. Shem was a black man in Africa. If you repeat this fact, they can't laugh at you. If you repeat this fact, they can't laugh at you. If you repeat this fact,
I want to say peace and blessings to everyone. Apologize if I confused you guys earlier. I know I was going to do a live about an hour ago dealing with a particular subject, but I pushed that off to Thursday. And I did do a video upload. So just trying to get back in the flow of things. So I decided to do a live on Babylon. You know, that's one of the topics we hear a lot about, especially those that are teaching end time prophecy, really about Babylon. And so I just, thought I'd do a lesson on Babylon. I'm sure you guys have heard this before, flee Babylon. The United States is Babylon. I'm sure you guys heard a number of different arguments out there. And so I just want to give clarity on a few things that the scripture touches on, not the scripture touches on, but people touch on in terms of with the scriptures. In many cases, it's out of context. So I want to kind of give you the proper context of what it means to, for example, flee Babylon. What is the woman, the seven hills? What does that mean? So that's what we're going to touch on tonight. And we will continue on with the lesson that I had scheduled for this week. And we'll just do it this upcoming Thursday. So like I said, this is one of the topics that, I believe that many make a lot of mistakes because many of our brothers and sisters who are state that they are no longer part of, let's just say, the Christian church, part of Christianity, Christian Catholicism, are still taking the approach of the Christian Catholic Church when it comes to understanding the prophecies. So I know this is a late night Bible study or a late night session here, which is all good, but that's what we are going to cover tonight. The woman, the seven hills, and also we're going to give clarity to flee Babylon. All right, so let's go to get into it, family. Let me bring it up here. All right, still making some adjustments to my setup here at the office. Went on to put some new equipment here, so still getting adjusted to it. But let's get into it, family. Let's get into it. The woman, the seven hills. I'm not sure if you guys asked this question, and I know many of you guys that read the scriptures And I know that a number of questions probably was triggered from some of the things that you've read, unanswered questions like, who is the great city? What does it mean to flee Babylon? Is the United States Babylon? Did the prophecies, many of the prophecies already occur? Where are we in the scale of things when it comes to the prophecies? So we're going to touch on this tonight because, again, there's a lot of individuals who have taught certain things out of context, like fleeing Babylon, and not really applying the proper application of what the text is referring to when it says flee Babylon. There's two different things that are going on, and we're going to touch on that. But we got a lot to cover, family. Who is the great city? Is the great city referring to a particular nation? What are some of the attributes of this great city? Let's start with Revelation chapter 17. We're going to highlight verse 5. And upon her forehead was a name written, Mystery, Babylon, the Great, the mother of harlots and abominations of the earth. So let's break this passage down. Let's walk, kind of like slow walk this thing, just to make sure that we are all on the same page with the text. So let's deal with this word name. Let's deal with this word name, because I believe if you get something so simple like this word down, this will help you when you're reading the scriptures. Because I know all through the scriptures you see this word name, but from a Hebraic school of thought, what does it mean? Right? So we see here Sham in the Israeli Shem, right? But we're dealing with ancient Hebrew, Sham. And this is what the word means: as a mark or memorial of individuality. In other words, a literal name. But by implication, honor, authority, character, fame, infame, infamous, or infamous, renown, report. So it could be a literal name, but also, as we just pointed out, it can deal with the honor, the authority, the character of a particular individual. So that's what I really want you guys to make a note of that. If you have a notepad and you're writing notes, write in this entry, place name and put Shem or Sham rather right next to it. And remember, this word can be a literal name, or it could be, as you see here, honor, authority, character. That is key. Glory. As you see here, let me see, in the bottom portion of this text or the screen print, let me zoom it in so you can see it. You see the word glory, reputation, fame, glory. And the Hebrew word for glory is kabod. So again, Sham transliterates to the English word name, which can be a literal title, or it can refer to the attributes of the person that's carrying a particular title. In other words, honor, authority, character. And as we pointed out, reputation, fame, glory. But the question should be asked is, what is the reputation of the bride? What is the reputation of the bride? In the passage that we read from Revelation, it said, upon her forehead was a name written, mystery. And the Greek definition of this word mystery, as we see here, says a secret. And what's interesting here, it says secret or mystery through the idea of silence imposed by initiation into religious rites. That's pretty interesting, because when we look inside, or not just look inside the church, but take an assessment of the church, you'll find that fraternities and sororities are very big among those that say that they follow in Christ. Freemasons to, the college fraternities, You have fraternities at the workplace. You have fraternities that's in academics for our school. You have so many different fraternities. But the key is that when we really start dealing with this particular bride, the characteristics of this bride, as you see here, mystery, through the idea of silence imposed by initiation into religious rites. So again, another quote building on this, a name, Sham, mystery. And now we're going to deal with Babylon the Great, because this is important, family. So we're going to walk this thing out. Babylon the Great. And when we go to the Hebrew word for Babylon, the ancient Hebrew, Babal is the ancient pronunciation of it. But you see here, the Israeli Babel. All right. So it says confusion. But the key to confusion, or this definition of this term or this name or this title, Babal, we see here confusion by mixing. Confusion by mixing. I'll say it again, confusion by mixing. And when you really think about the transatlantic world war, there was a lot of confusion that the oppressors had carried out on our people, mixing and meshing our names, mixing and meshing our lineage for as family, mixing and mixing our identity. So it caused a lot of confusion. And when you think about this is confirmed with Ezekiel chapter 37, when it says the valley of the dry bones, that the bones were very dry. Actually, the proper translation of that is very confused. And we as a community, we are a very confused group of people. Most of it is because of what was handed down to us. In other cases, is voluntarily, because many don't take the time out to properly study the holy text. Many are looking for quick fixes. All right. So Babylon, Babal, also means confusion by mixing. Many will focus on and use the term portal or CERN, gateway, and I can understand why many would use that. But in this case, the key point that we really want to hone in on is confusion by mixing. All right. So make a note of that. Confusion by mixing. So this bride, mystery is the reputation, Babylon the Great. But then it says mother of harlots. Well, what does it mean when it says mother of harlots? Well, what it means is mother is the source of something. So this bride, this beast, is going to be the source. Well, what is the something? Source of what? And when we look at harlot, the Greek word that we see here in the Greek is porne. This is where you get the word porno. Actually, it comes from the word porno. So porne, porno, harlot, whore. We see here an adulteress, but it also tells us of a Babylon, an example, Rome, the chief seat of idolatry. So that's a lot to unpack here, but we're just going to keep it simple. But think about perversion. This mother is going to be, this bride is going to be the source of all perversions. So this bride will be the source of perversions. So we also see the word abominations. Let's deal with abominations as we continue to lay out the groundwork in this lesson. So we see here, it says something disgusting, especially idolatry or an idol. And then what we see here, in a ritual sense, unclean foods, idols, mixed marriages. So you see how this still ties into Babal. When we see mixed marriages, that's confusion by what? Mixing. And then when we see unclean foods, so many of our brothers and sisters, not just that's in this awakening, but it's still in the church, they are struggling with eating foods that are considered an abomination to the Most High. foods that are sacrificed to idols. So this bride will be the source of disgusting, unethical things. So is the bride connected to the great city? So when we go to Zechariah chapter 11, verse 5, let's see what Zechariah says about this. Whose possessors slay them and hold themselves not guilty. And they that sell them say, blessed be Yahweh, for I am rich, and their own shepherds pity them not. So who are the people they possessed? Who are the people they kidnapped, raped, murdered, and hold themselves not guilty? We're going to explain this. Revelation chapter 17, verse 14. These shall make war with the Lamb, and the Lamb shall overcome them, for he is Adonaiah, Adonaiah, and Malak, Malak. Now, there's a word that's an Ethiopian word that means Lord of Lords, Kings of Kings, is called Nigas. And the Hebrew is Nagad. So these shall make war with the Lamb, and the Lamb shall overcome them, for he is Lord of Lord, or Adonaiah of Adonaiah, King of Kings, Malak of Malak. And they that are with him are called and chosen and faithful. And he saith unto me, the waters which thou sawest, where the whore sitteth, are peoples and multitudes and nations and tongues. Let's read this again. And he said unto me, the waters which thou sawest, where the whore sitteth, are peoples, multitudes, nations, and tongues. So again, the waters which thou sawest, where the whore sitteth, are peoples, multitudes, nations, and tongues. So let's bring this together. Zephaniah chapter 3, starting at verse 9. For then I will turn to the people a pure language. Didn't say a new language. It says a pure language, barar, language, shapah. In other words, the Most High is going to cleanse our language, going to purge our language, get it back to the original. For then I will turn to the people a pure language, that they may all call upon the name, that we see that word, name, Hasham, of Yahweh, which means he exists, to serve him with one consent. Akkad Shakam. All right. So when you understand, many of you guys just celebrated the feast days, when you understand the blowing of the trumpets, right? We covered this from Ezra. You also see this in Nehemiah chapter 8, right? Israel, they were required on the feast days to come together as one man, unify, be in unison, be one with each other in the presence of the Most High. So we see here to serve him with one consent. That means unity. We have to come together, family. We have to come together. Verse 10, from beyond Abad, the rivers, Abad, the rivers of Ethiopia. Actually, not Abad, it's Ibar. Excuse me for mispronouncing this word here. This is Ibar. From beyond Ibar, the rivers of Ethiopia, Kawash, my suppliants, even the daughter of my dispersed shall bring mine offering. So let's go to this PBS article. Some of you guys know I reference it from time to time. The middle passage, just so that way you guys can understand how this is fulfilling prophecies. It says, for weeks, months, sometimes as long as a year, they waited in the dungeons of the slave factories scattered along Africa's western coast. They had already made the long, difficult journey from Africa's interior, but just barely. Out of the roughly 20 million who were taken from their homes and sold into slavery, half didn't complete the journey to the African coast, most of those dying along the way. And the worst was yet to come. So this gives you a understanding of what happened to our ancestors being raptured, because that's what rapture means, kidnapped, raped from our homes, and then enslaved, forced into cattle slavery. But it says, and the worst is yet to come. I'm not going to really go ahead and get into the word coon. I'm going to fast forward here, but that is a baraka, where our ancestors were stored at. If you're in the Atlanta area, I encourage you guys go down to Savannah, Georgia, and you can see this there. And this is where the word coon comes from. So this is why I choose not to use that word to describe anyone within our community. But going back to this article, the Middle Passage, the captives were about to embark on the infamous Middle Passage, so called because it was the middle leg of a three-part voyage, a voyage that began and ended in Europe. The first leg of the voyage carried a cargo that often included iron, cloth, brandy, firearms, and gunpowder. Upon landing on Africa's slave coast, the cargo, let me go back here. The cargo was, exchanged for Africans. Fully loaded with its human cargo, the ship set sail for the Americas, where the slaves were exchanged for sugar, tobacco, or some other products. The final leg brought the ships back to Europe. The slaves were branded with hot irons and restrained with shackles. Now, this is another important thing to understand. When we start looking at prophecy, and I'm going to say this again, family, and I say this over and over again, Israel, when we interpreting the prophecies, start with Israel. We've been conditioned to start with the oppressors and then work our way through the text to try to make sense of the prophecies that the scripture speaks of. In other words, the term eschatology, the end times. So we always start with Israel. So if we think that the scriptures are prophesying of world wars, you have to start with Israel. The entire scriptures, the entire text is about Israel. So the transatlantic slave trade was really a war. It was a world war. And that's one of the things that have been dumbed down. So if anyone telling you that they're waiting for World War III to kick off, well, they're not teaching or they're not applying the atrocities that our ancestors had to endure. And we are the sons and daughters of prisoners of war. So the transatlantic slave trade was actually a transatlantic world war. And look up, do your definition, do your due diligence. Look up the definition of what a world war is, and you'll see it falls right into that criteria. But when we say world war in the modern tense of today, it's dealing with European history. Anyway, so the slaves were branded with hot irons and restrained with shackles. And this is what they was marked with. So this still ties into the prophecies. Our ancestors could not buy or sell. We're talking about millions upon millions, tens of millions of our ancestors could not buy or sell without having a receipt from their masters, allowing them to go or to move about the plantation or to go to the local store or whatever the case may be. So the transatlantic slave trade, guess what? That's the Great Tribulation. And when we deal with the 400-year prophecy, that's still part of that Great Tribulation. So there was two key major points of history that Christ prophesied in Matthew chapter 24. The time of sorrow, which is confirmed that that's the time of the disciples, the time that the Messiah walked the face of the earth, the sacking of Jerusalem, and the Messiah gave confirmation by referring to Daniel chapter 7. So we already know that the times of sorrow, that's about Israel 70 AD. But then we see the Great Tribulation. The Great Tribulation, we can see the precursor of that with the sub-Saharan slave trade, or the Arabic slave trade, which was the precursor to the transatlantic World War. These are major events in our community, among our, in regards to our people, that has been downplayed. You don't see any of the Europeans mentioning that at all as part of prophecy, but that was a major, event, a tragic event, to be exact. All right. So the waters which thou sawest, where the whore sitteth, are peoples, multitudes, nations, tongues. Now, think about this. I know many may have heard about Aristotle rather, but let me show you Aristotle's influence on the Catholic Church, the Christian Catholic Church, dealing with indenture. I'm not even going to say indentured servitude, chattel slavery. The influence of Aristotle and Rome's civil law on the theologians. It says here, Aristotle, philosophy, translated from Arabic sources in Spain, was introduced into the universities of Western Europe at the beginning of this period. His views on slavery continued to influence theologians until the 16th century, so they deserve quotations. Here's some of the quotes, right? So it is clearly natural and beneficial to the body that it should be ruled by the soul. Tame animals have a better nature than wild, and it is better for all such animals that they should be ruled by man, because they then get the benefit of preservation. We may thus conclude that all men who differ from others, as much as the body differs from the soul, or an animal from a man, all such are by nature slaves, and it is better for them to be ruled by a master. A man is thus by nature a slave if he is capable of becoming the property of another. So this is the thoughts, this is the philosophy of Aristotle that the Catholic Christian Church embraced. So it goes on to say, and if he participates in reason to the extent of apprehending it in another, though destitute of it himself, is thus by nature a slave if he is capable of becoming the property of another, and if he participates in the reason to the extent of let's skip down. Let's skip down. It says here, it is thus clear that just as some of us are by nature free, so others are by nature slaves. And for these latter, the conditions of slavery is both beneficial and just. So Rome's influence on the Catholic Church. Let's deal with that a little bit. Also, what or who is this great city? Now, here's a key description of the great city. Let's go back to Revelation chapter 17, starting at verse 7. Notice what it says here. Revelation 17, starting at verse 7. And the angel said unto me, wherefore didst thou marvel? I will tell thee the mystery of the woman and of the beast that carrieth her, which hath the 7 heads and 10 horns. Let me read this again. And the angel said unto me, wherefore didst thou marvel? I will tell thee the mystery of the woman and of the beast that carrieth her, which hath the 7 heads and 10 horns. So we have to deal with the 7 heads and 10 horns, right? Verse 8, the beast that thou sawest was and is not, and shall ascend out of the bottomless pit and go into perdition. And they that dwell on the earth shall wonder, whose names were not written in the book of life from the foundation of the world. That's pretty interesting, right? Because if you study Numbers, the first few chapters, you'll understand that every Israelite, we are born with our names inside the book of life. Every person that was born in Israel, their name was written inside the book of life. The key is not being blotted out. The key is keeping our name inside the book of life. When you deal with Anakin or Achan in Joshua chapter 7, Achan in Joshua chapter 7 says that he was blotted out, meaning his name was in the book of life, but his actions caused him to be removed from it. So, family, our goals are never to get our names put into or placed inside the the book of life, right? Because our names are already written in the book of life by birth. Our whole objectives is to keep our names written in that book, preventing it from being blotted out. All right. So, whose names were not written in the book of life from the foundation of the world, when they behold the beast that was and is not and yet is. And here is the mind which hath wisdom. The 7 heads are 7 mountains on which the woman sitteth. Okay. I see a quick question. Can it be unblotted? When the Most High turns you over to a reprobate mind, when the Most High turns you over to a rebate mind, that's the Most High completely washing his hands with you, like he with King Saul. King Saul was turned over to a reprobate mind. He did not want to listen. Israel, after a while, the Most High said, enough is enough. So a whole generation that originally came out of Egypt did not make it to the promised land, with the exception of Caleb and Joshua. So we have to make sure that our names stay in, and we can't keep playing with the Father, thinking that we have a get out of jail free card, that we could do premeditated things that's contrary to him, and think that he's going to always forgive us. There'll come a point in time the Most High will say enough is enough, like he did with Israel. All right. So and here is the mind which hath wisdom. The 7 heads are 7 mountains on which the woman sitteth. Again, so the 7 heads are 7 mountains. The Greek dictionary definition of mountain, let's deal with that real quick so we can put everything in its proper perspective. It says probably of an obsolete. Actually, let me go down here. This is the key I want to get to. It says a mountain as lifting itself above the plain. Then we see hill, mountain. So again, a mountain as lifting itself above the plain, hill, mount. So Rome is known as the city of the 7 hills. Let me bring that to your attention. Let's cut to the chase now. Rome is known as the city of 7 hills. Let's prove it. This is a source. This is a great source here. The 2 Babylons. I encourage you guys to purchase some of these sources that I present to you guys. Alexander Hislop, on page 22, it says this. No other city in the world has ever been celebrated as the city of Rome has, for its situation on 7 hills. Pagan poets and orators who had not thought of elucidating prophecy have alike characterized it as the 7-hilled city. The Virgil refers to it. Rome has both become the most beautiful, in other words, city in the world, and alone has surrounded for herself 7 heights with a wall. Propertius, in the same strain, speak of it, only adding another trait which completes the apocalyptic picture as the lofty city on 7 hills, which governs the whole world. It says it's governing the world. It's governing the whole world is just the counterpart of the divine statement, which reigneth over the kings of the earth. To call Rome the city of the 7 hills was by its citizens held to be as descriptive as to call it by its own proper name. Hence, Horace speaks of it by reference to its seven hills alone when he addresses the gods who have set their affections on the seven hills. Here's another source that really will bring all of this home on identifying the seven hills. Collier's Encyclopedia with Bibliography and Index. Now, I will drop this link inside the comments section. Some of these links I'll drop here so that way you can go and pull it for at your own leisure. You could vet these sources. Matter of fact, let me do it real quick. And I encourage you guys, vet these sources. I am not just presenting these sources just so that way you guys can, just to sound good before you guys. Not trying to impress you guys with just reciting sources. No, I am presenting these sources so that way you can go back and vet them. Let's see here. Let me drop this inside the chat. All right. This is the source, the link to the source that I'm making reference to. All right, so let's continue. Let me slide my mouse back over here. So this is coming from this source, volume 20, 1904. Let's see what it says. Rome, the capital of the Republic of Italy, and for many centuries, the spiritual capital of Western Christendom and the seat of Supreme Pontiff of the Roman Catholic Church. Known as the Eternal City, Rome is as old as Western civilization, a fact that prompted Napoleon to remark, the history of Rome is the history of the world. Rome has figured prominently in the story of mankind, first as the capital of the Roman Empire until its collapse in the 5th century AD, later as the capital of the Papal States, and after 1870 as the capital of a united Italy. Rome's architectural grandeur and its impressive monuments and ruins. It goes on to say, it's a section here that says geographic settings, and this is what it says about this. It says, Rome is situated near the west coast of central Italy, about 15 miles from where the Tiber River flows into the Tyrrhenian Sea at Ostia Mare or Mare. In imperial times, the port of Rome was located in Ostia Amica, a few miles inland, but over the years, the port silted up and was abandoned. Rome is in the midst of an undulating plain known as the Campagna di Roma. Excuse me if I butchered this here. Bordering the plains are small mountain ranges to the north of Sabatini Hills, to the east of the Sabini and Prestini Hills, and to the southeast of Alban Hills. The city is divided by the Tiber River and occupies a series of low hills, including the 7 hills of Rome. So that's key. So we see, even giving some historical references, that those 7 hills, this is Vatican City. This is dealing with the Roman Catholic Church, including the 7 hills of Rome. So who is the woman who sitteth on the 7 hills? So we identified the 7 hills, but who is the woman that sitteth on the 7 hills? Guess what? The Roman Catholic Church sits on the 7 hills. Let me say that again. The Roman Catholic Church sits on the 7 hills. Let's go to Revelation chapter 17, verse 4. And the woman was arrayed in purple and scarlet color, and decked with gold and precious stones, and pearls, having a golden cup in her hand, full of abominations and filthiness of her fornication. So who is this clothed woman? Is she the daughter of Babylon? Who is the daughter of Babylon? Is she the United States? Let's go to Zechariah chapter 2, and let's use this to kind of answer this question, starting at verse 6. Ho, ho, come forth and flee from the land of the north, saith Yahweh, for I have spread you abroad as the four winds of the heaven, saith Yahweh. Deliver thyself, O Zion, that dwellest with the daughter of Babylon. All right, so let me read it one more time. Ho, ho, come forth and flee from the land of the north, saith Yahweh, for I have spread you abroad as the four winds of the heaven, saith Yahweh. Deliver thyself, O Zion, that dwellest with the daughter of Babylon. So just give you a little overview of the book of Zechariah, because that's one of the things I think is imperative for you guys to understand when we're dealing with these different prophecies. We need to understand what the overview of the book. What is the backdrop? What is the background? What is the climate that surrounds this particular or whatever particular book that you're studying from? So in this case, since I made a quote from Zechariah, let's give an idea of what Zechariah, is dealing with, who wrote it, and what period, and the events occurred. All right. So it says here, my notes here, the prophet Zechariah is clear in his writings that chapter 1 through 8 was written between 520 and 518 BC. So this prophetic writing began after the Babylonians were conquered by the Medo-Persians armies, right? Judah became a province of the Medo-Persians. Cyrus was appointed by them to rule over them. He allowed Judah to return to their homeland. The same place Yah instructed those who were taken to Babylon now return. And so Zechariah, his prophetic message of hope for those who had returned to Judea, to the land of Judea, or the land of Judah. Let me say that again. Zechariah's prophetic message of hope are for those who had returned to the land of Judah, Judah's territory. Zechariah specifically mentions Zerubbabel, who was the head Nagad or Nagid in charge, and Yahushua, Joshua, the high priest. Now, this is not dealing with the Messiah, right? This is dealing with Joshua, or some of you guys would say Yeshua in the Israeli, but the ancient name is Yahushua. So we see here, when you deal with Zerubbabel and the high priest, Yahushua, Joshua. That's why you see Joshua here. So we're dealing with the high priest. We're not dealing with the Messiah. So so Judah, who still lived in Babylon, was warned to flee Babylon and return home to their own land of Judah. This is important, family, because we hear this a lot. We hear this a lot. Flee Babylon. See, family, what many are doing when they say flee Babylon, they're conflating two different passages, right? And not really giving you the overall proper context, because we see flee Babylon in Revelation, but we also see this in Jeremiah. But I want to make sure you get a proper context of where you see flee Babylon. So Judah, who still lived in Babylon, was warned to flee Babylon and return home to their own land of Judah. See, this is important for you to understand. Make a note of this, family, because many would give you the impression that, hey, flee Babylon. They'll tell you that the United States is Babylon and then convince you to flee. Flee where? We're supposed to be going back to our home. So if they're not teaching that we're going back to our native territory, then I just encourage you guys to be careful. Be careful. Because again, in this text, Judah was told to return back to Jerusalem, back to their territories, back to Israel. Let's prove it. Let me see if I put the passages here. They were warned twice in verse 7 and 8, flee from Mother Babylon. More specifically, they were to flee from the local people who were referred to as daughter of Babylon. again return to their own land, which is Judah. All right, so let me get something here. Did I put it here? I think I think I forgot to put it here. Yeah, I think I forgot to put the passages here, but this is referring to that here. But I forgot to put Jeremiah in here as well. So you see here, anyway, Israel was supposed to return back to their homeland, their home territory, leave Babylon and go home. All right. Let me fast forward. Let me see if I have it inside. Bear with me 1 second, family. Let me make sure here. I thought I had it in here. All right. Okay. I think I have some of it here. But let's go to give proper context here. So I want to make it clear, family, prophecy isn't generic, ambiguous, it's not universal, it's not Catholic. But I want to go back to this key point here. Bullet number 2. More specifically, they, in other words, Judah, the Israelites, were to flee from the local people who were referred to as the daughter of Babylon. That is key. I just want to make sure you guys make a note of that. So understanding context is everything when it comes to properly interpreting them. Let me say that again. Understanding context is everything when it comes to properly interpreting the scriptures. The daughter of Babylon was the local people of Babylon. Let me say that again. The daughter of Babylon was the local people of Babylon. Let's prove this. The 137th book of Psalms, starting at verse 8. O daughter of Babylon, who are to be destroyed, happy shall he be that rewarded thee as thou hast served us. So we see daughter of Babylon. This is dealing with the people. So while in Babylon, those Israelites who were repentant towards Yahweh longed to return home. They wanted to go home, like many of us today. Want to go home. Want to go home. Let me say this real quick, family, and I'm going to block this troll here. I'm gonna block this troll, and I'm gonna use this as an example. I'm gonna put this troll's information up on the screen. Why are you always trying to tell people to stay in the U.S.? Now I'm gonna address this troll because I'm sure this person trolls on every other channel. There's not one time have I stated to stay in the United States. What I've always stated that, allow the Most High to speak to you. If the Most High tells you to leave, then you leave. See, this is where you have trolls going from channel to channel, posting lies. Now, there's not a single not a single video that I stated telling people to stay in the United States. But guess what? As a leader, as a pastor, as also a father, a husband, I'm going to always teach caution. I'm not going to tell our people to leave a situation and potentially go to a situation that's just as bad, if not worse, on false pretense. If you choose to leave this country, go for it. But the Most High made it clear, wherever we are, we're supposed to, basically in a nutshell, we're supposed to cultivate where we are until he comes. So again, family, I just want to address this liar here because this is trolls who like to post lies inside the comment section. I've always stated, the Most High told you to go. But don't force it. Don't press me if I choose not to go to another territory. So again, family, I just want to address this liar here, because again, this is how they troll. They'll post comments inside the comment section, and which is absolute lies. So I just want to post, kind of address this liar here, this troll, and I'm going to call it what it is. I'm not going to bite my tongue. This person is a flat out liar, and I challenge him and anyone to pull up a video of me stating to stay in the United States. All right. So let me remove. I already removed the person out. So I want to make it clear, family. This lesson is not about trying to tell anyone what to do. If the Most High tells you to move to another territory, go for it. Go for it. Go for it. But the but that I want to add to it is, don't try to make someone feel guilty if they choose not to leave wherever they are. Babylon, and I'm going to get to it, it's not just the United States. Babylon is the entire world. Babylon is a universal system. That's why I said, family, earlier in this lesson, you could kind of tell who's who and how they're teaching is when they say flee Babylon and they only refer to the United States. Babylon is a worldwide system. United States is connected to it. Britain is connected to it. Russia is connected to it. And most of the countries in Africa are connected to this Babylonian system, one way or another, whether they're supporters for Russia, whether it's for United States, whether it's for China, whatever the case may be. The Babylonian system is a universal system. But we're going to give clarity on what it means in this lesson about fleeing Babylon. Because remember, as I stated, there's two different contexts when we deal with Babylon. So that's why I want to make it clear, family. This is how you have predators that scheme on our people. They'll just say, hey, flee Babylon. Well, what about our brothers and sisters that are in Brazil? What about our brothers and sisters that are in the Caribbean islands? What about our brothers and sisters that are in Australia? What about those brothers and sisters? How come you guys are not guys like that individual stating flee Brazil, flee Panama, flee Cubana, flee Haiti? And that my family that are watching is a prime example, a perfect example of how people are taking the scriptures out of context and selectively choosing what they want to teach or what they want to harper on or hammer on. All right. Apologies for the commercial break here, but let's return back to our normally scheduled program. All right. So anyway, so the Israelites, they wept bitterly when they remembered Zion, the sacred place where they had lived joyfully in Yahweh's presence. All right, let's bring this together. All right. So still dealing with the daughters of Babylon, it is significant to note that only after a fraction of Judah returned to the promised land when given the opportunity. So Israel was given the opportunity to return home, but many of them chose to stay where they were, or many of them ended up fleeing to Egypt. That's the reason why Judah, Israel, all of that territory was completely destroyed because the Most High passed judgment. They decided and this is contributing to the third invasion of the Babylonians. They fled. When I say they, Judah fled to Egypt, took prophet Jeremiah with them, forced them to go with them instead of returning back to Israel. And the Most High passed judgment on them. Okay. So of those yet living, many were too old or in too poor health to make the strenuous trip back. So there's a lot of challenges that come with the territory. This is why when I deal with people that like we saw in this comment section, posting are more than likely is believing in this flee doctrine. What about the brothers and sisters who may not have the financial means to be able to travel if they say we need to flee the Americas? What if they're too old or they have poor health or they just don't have the financial capabilities to do that? Then what? See, that's the other side to it that you don't hear these guys teach. So, on the other hand, the majority of Israel were settled and content in Babylon. That's the key. When you read Jeremiah, you'll see a lot of our brothers and sisters, they just got comfortable in Babylon. They got comfortable in Babylon. Through the prophet Jeremiah, Yahweh had instructed the captives to build houses, have families, work, and seek the peace and prosperity of the land in which they were where they were forced to live. So this is twofold. While they were in Babylon, Jeremiah, through the Most High, encouraged the people to what? Make the best of their situation. But again, still being reminded too that there's going to be a time for them to return home. Unfortunately, some got so comfortable and didn't want to return home. Let's go to Jeremiah 29, verse 4 through 7. Let's see what it says. Let's confirm this. Thus saith Yahweh of hosts, the Elohim of Israel, unto all that are carried away captives, whom I have caused to be carried away from Jerusalem unto Babylon, build ye houses, dwell in them, plant gardens, and eat the fruit of them. Let me say that again, right? This is the words from Yah to the prophet Jeremiah, telling Israel, who is in Babylon, those that was carried away captives into Babylon. It says here, verse 5, build ye houses, dwell in them. Don't just build houses, live in them. Plant gardens, eat the fruit of them. Take ye wives, beget sons and daughters, and take wives for your sons, and give your daughters to husbands, that they may bear sons and daughters, that ye may be increased and not diminished. Verse 7, and seek the peace of the city whither I have caused you to be carried away captives, and pray unto Yahweh for it. For in the peace thereof shall ye have peace. So they were instructed to what? Live in the midst of their captivity. They didn't have to allow the captivity to cause them to live in poverty. Let's unpack this again. It says, let's go back here for those that are getting tricked and fooled and getting spooked by many of these people that are teaching flee Babylon doctrine. Look at this, is Jeremiah teaching Israel, who is in physical Babylon, the actual Babylonian territories, telling them right here. It says, unto all that are carried away. Let me start at the beginning of verse 4. Thus saith Yahweh, this is the Father. Thus saith Yahweh of hosts, the Elohim of Israel, unto all that are carried away captives, whom I have caused to be carried away from Jerusalem unto Babylon, build ye houses, dwell in them. See, I'm not going to let anyone try to make me feel bad because I'm sitting here honoring this text, that the commands that Jeremiah had given here. See, that reminds me of the holiness church, the old school holiness church. See, it was like a badge of honor if you look poor, if you looked impoverished, if you looked like you were struggling. You know what I'm talking about, family. I remember seeing some of the old testimony services when I was a kid, and you had people coming up to the altar saying, I'm just barely making it. I'm just looking like they're going through all kinds of situations, and that was like a badge of honor. No, I'm not. That's not what this scripture says. I'm going to make the best of whatever circumstances that that is presented to me. Build ye houses, dwell in them, plant gardens, eat the fruit of them. Take ye wives, begat sons, daughters, and take wives for your sons. Give your daughters to husbands, that they may bear sons, daughters, that ye may be increased there and not diminished. And seek the peace of the city. Seek the peace of the city. In other words, don't sit up here trying to be troublemakers. It says, seek the peace, the wellness of the city, whether I have caused you to be carried away captives, and pray unto Yahweh for it. For in the peace thereof shall ye have peace. Come on, family. Isaiah 47:1. Let's see what it says here. Come down and sit in the dust, O virgin daughter of Babylon. Now we're dealing with, again, Babylon, the daughter of Babylon, the people of Babylon that Israel is supposed to separate themselves from. Come down and sit in the dust, O virgin daughter of Babylon. Sit on the ground. There is no throne, O daughter of the Chaldeans. This is dealing with the people. See, when you're fleeing, it's not just fleeing the system. And at this time also, they're telling them to flee the people. So let's just say many of our brothers and sisters say, you know what, I'm going to flee Babylon, and what they think is Babylon. They flee the United States, not realize that Babylon is a world system. They flee Babylon, but then they go to, let's say, a country in Africa, and they come across the same characters. Now, I'm not saying all our brothers and sisters around the world are the same. I want to make sure I put that disclaimer out there. But I'm saying is, how you prepare here and the people that you surround yourself here in the United States, guess what? It's not going to be any different. If you go to a different territory, guess what? You're going to still, if you don't make an effort to do exactly what the scripture tells you to do, 9 times out of 10, you're going to surround yourself around the same people you had problems with when you was in the country. When I say the same people, the same characteristics of people. There's so many of our brothers and sisters that have gone from travel to around the world and brought their problems with them, brought their struggles with them. If they were bad with managing their money, guess what? They went to other territories, other countries with an issue not being able to manage their money properly. Many of them went to other areas dealing with all kinds of dependencies, whether it's flesh dependencies, perversions, go over to other countries and operating in that perversion. And many of them have the local people wanting to completely take them out because of them disrespecting their communities. That's right. When you deal with fleeing Babylon, it starts with your mind. See, many of our brothers and sisters, like I grew up in the projects. I'm not ashamed to say I grew up in the projects, but guess what? Many of our brothers and sisters, the Most High blessed you to get out of the projects, to be able to move and raise a family outside of the projects. But many went to other areas, living in nice homes, nice careers, and still have a project mentality. Anyway, so let's continue, family. So Isaiah predicted that Babylon would face the hand of Yahweh's judgment. Babylon would be humiliated and conquered. So Isaiah did identify Persia as the conqueror. And history has proven the fulfillment of the prophecies for Persia conquered Babylon in 539 BC. Babylon is referred to as a virgin daughter. Let me say that again. Babylon is referred to as a virgin daughter, a tender, delicate nation, which simply means that she was a young nation. She had never been sexually conquered and never been raped by other nations up until this time. So that's what it means. It means that no other nation was able to defeat them. And normally when nations conquer another nation, they begin to exploit that nation, their whole infrastructure, their culture. They exploit everything about that nation. Up until this point in history, that didn't happen. The Babylons was pretty much like that fine-tuned machine. So who is the daughter of Babylon? Who is the daughter of Babylon? Is she the United States? Is she the Roman Catholics? Let's go to Revelation chapter 18, verse 1 and 2. And after these things, I saw another angel come down from heaven, having great power, and the earth was lightened with his glory. And he cried mightily with a strong voice, saying, Babylon the Great is fallen, and is become the habitation of devils, and the hold of every foul spirit, and a cage, every unclean and hateful bird. Let me read that again. And he carried mightily with a strong voice, saying, Babylon the Great is fallen, and is become the habitation of devils, and the hold of every foul spirit, and a cage, every unclean and hateful bird. Verse 3, for all nations have drunk of the wine. Let me say that again. Mark this part inside your Bibles, family. So when people try to just hone in on the United States as being Babylon, you can bring them to this passage. It says, for all nations have drunk of the wine of the wrath of her fornication, and the kings of the earth have committed fornication with her, and the merchants of the earth are waxed rich through the abundance of her delicacies. So we see here, it's more than one nation, family. It's more than one nation. Now, if we want to say the United States is a daughter, the daughter of who? Because Great Britain would be the mother of the United States. The UK, though that is the mother of the United States. Can't get around it. So for all nations, mark it in your Bible, family. I'm just using scripture. I'm not making this up. This is why I say, and been saying this for the longest, that the Babylonian system is a worldwide system. It says, for all nations have drunk of the wine of the wrath of her fornication, and the kings of the earth have committed fornication with her, and the merchants of the earth are waxed rich through the abundance of her delicacies. And I heard another voice from heaven saying, come out of her, my people. Let me say that again. And I heard another voice from heaven saying, come out of her, my people, that ye be not partakers of her sins. That's the key. Come on, family. This system is worldwide. What are we doing right now? We in this land of captivity. Guess what? By us coming out of the Catholic Christian Church, guess what? We are coming out of that Babylonian system. By many of us coming out of all these religious so-called Abrahamic faiths, guess what we're doing? We are coming out of these religious systems, because there is a plague, as we see here, that ye be not partakers of her sins. Because what are the sins of these different religious so-called Abrahamic religions? Number one, they enslaved Yah's people. They enslaved us. That's the true world war. They enslaved us. Come out of her, my people, that ye be not partakers of her sins, and that ye receive not her plagues. It's right here, family. It's just that simple. Let's go to Jeremiah 51, verse 6. Notice what we see here. Now, this is Jeremiah. When he wrote this, physical Babylon was still in place. Remember, the captives, many of the Israelites were taken to Babylon, right? And they were forced into captivity. So when it says flee out of Babylon in Jeremiah, they're telling Israel to flee the physical Babylon because it's going to be destroyed, and to what? Return back to Judah, return back to Jerusalem, return back to Israel, return back to the territories, return back to the heritage that the Most High has set aside for them. But when we get to Revelation, it's Babylon, the physical Babylon had already been destroyed. We're dealing with a spiritual Babylon. We're dealing with systems of here. It says, flee out of the midst, in other words, the middle of Babylon, and deliver every man his soul. Be not cut off in her iniquity, for this is the time of Yahweh's vengeance. He will render unto her a recompense. All right, a recompense, excuse me. Babylon hath been a golden cup in Yahweh's hand, that he made, that made all the earth drunken. The nation have drunken of her wine. Therefore, the nations are mad. Babylon is suddenly fallen and destroyed. Howl for her. Take balm for her pain. If so be she may, if so be she may be healed. Okay. So when we go to Revelation 18, 3 and 4, let's go back here. For all nations have drunk of the wine of the wrath of her fornication, and the kings of the earth committed fornications with her, and the merchants of the earth are waxed through the abundance of her delicacies. So we are dealing with two situations here, two different Babylons. You had the physical Babylon that had all this power during the time of Jeremiah, but remember, they got conquered. They was defeated. They no longer exist. But now when we get to this Babylon, now we're dealing with the system of man. We're dealing with these religious systems. That's why you had the term Roman Catholics. That's a religious system, right? So for all nations have drunk of the wine of the wrath of her fornication, and the kings of the earth have committed fornication with her, and the merchants of the earth are waxed rich through the abundance of her delicacies. Verse 4, and I heard another voice saying, come out of her, my people, that ye may not be partakers of her sins, and that ye receive not her plagues. So family, guess what? This is what we're doing. We're coming from out of her. By this awakening is causing us to come out of the system of religion and get back to the true culture that the Most High designated for us. Come on now, Monday, you guys honored the Day of Atonement. We're in the season now. Some have already celebrated honored the Day of Atonement early. Some doing it now, like we just did ours yesterday. You know, we're honoring tabernacles. We're honoring the blowing of the trumpets. At one time, we weren't. Most of us we were not doing that. But because we got awakened to who we are, and we're going to the fullness of the text, precept upon precept, line upon line, now we see that, guess what? Like Nehemiah during that time, they were in captivity. They were all in shambles. But then once they began to rebuild the community, then they were reading from Torah. Read it. That's Nehemiah chapter 8. They're reading from Torah. And guess what? Now they feel convicted. Now they want to start doing the things of the Most High. So when you get down to the latter part of chapter 18, you get down to, verse 17 of Nehemiah chapter 8, you see that Judah, when the priests were reading from the law, they saw the tabernacle. They were like, wait a minute, we got to get back to doing these things. We haven't honored the Feast of Tabernacles since the time of Joshua, the son of Nun, was walking the face of the earth. So they were convicted to start doing what? The things of the Most High. Now, when you go to chapter 9, now you see after the day of, after the tabernacles, now Israel is doing the atonement. Why am I pointing that out? It's out of sequence. The Day of Atonement is supposed to occur on the 10th day. But I believe it's like the 24th day that they were honoring it. See, family, I said all of that to say is they made an assertive effort to begin somewhere, to start somewhere. Even though they were late with honoring the Day of Atonement within that month, they still honored the Day of Atonement. So right now, it may seem like many of us are out of sequence when it comes to celebrating the feast days on certain days. But the key, we are making efforts to honor it. You cannot minimize the efforts. This is biblical. That's the example of how what we're doing to coming out of that system, that Babylonian system that have enslaved us, because there are plagues, there are judgments that's going to take place with these religious systems. All the people that have created them and ran with them and enslaved our people through them. So Jeremiah 51, going at verse 44, look at this. And I will punish Baal in Babylon, and I will bring forth out of his mouth that which he hath swallowed up, and the nations shall not flow together any more unto him. Yea, the wall of Babylon shall fall. Verse 45, my people, go ye out of the midst of her, and deliver ye every man his soul from the fierce anger of Yahweh. Man, this is powerful. This is powerful, family. So when we look at the word sin, look at what it says here. This is the Greek word sin. Offense, sin, sinful, to miss or wander from the path of uprightness and honor, to do or go wrong. And this is the key, right? Uprightness, rightness. This still deals with being righteous. In other words, this is synonymous to being lawful. Wander from the path of lawfulness, being lawful, and honor, to do or go wrong. Entry says to wander from the law of Yahweh, violate the Most High's law. That's what sin is. Wander from the law, statutes, and commandments. That's what sin is. Wander from the path of uprightness or righteousness and honor. In other words, being lawful, the path that the Most High laid out. And as Psalms 119, thy word is a lamp unto my feet, a light unto my path. That is dealing with the law, statutes, and commandments. The entire 119 book of Psalms is dealing with the law, statutes, and commandments. So the Hebrew definition of sin, we're getting close to the end here. I know I covered a lot. It says here to miss, to sin, to forfeit, lead astray, condemn, bear the blame. We see here offend, offender, trespass, go wrong, forfeit. See, this is what happens when we go against the law, statutes, and commandments. So why are we commanded to come out of her? Why are we commanded to come out of her? Do not participate or continue to participate in her perversions. Let me say that again. Why are we commanded to come out of her? Right? We are commanded and we are charged by the Most High. Do not participate or continue to participate in her perversions. All right. So again, this is the perversions. You guys recognize this? This is Vatican. Right? I could just look at this without even pulling up the symbols behind here. This is that hill. This is the woman that sits upon the hill. Look at that. You see the square and the compass? Look at here. Look at the compass here. You see this Masonic compass? I'm just drawing it out here. Also, you see the Cleopatra needle right in the center of it. But this is also, right, as you see here, look at the perversion. There's the extension of the compass. And all I have to do is draw a line across here. You'll see the star here. It's just, it's right in our face, family. All right. Now, I want you to understand the perversion here. What you see on the left of your screen, right? This is a symbol from Hinduism, right? And in Hinduism, you guys probably recognize this symbol. This is called what is called a lingam yani. In other words, this is a sexual image here. A lingam yani. That's what this is. You see this in Star Wars, right? The Millennium Falcon, right? You see this all around you. This is a yani. This is a lingam yani. You know, this is a symbol of intercourse between man and woman. And you see that square, or excuse me, this compass here. You still see the lingam, right? Notice the needle right in the center, just like how you see here. Come on, family, built on perversions. And see, many of our brothers and sisters don't want to come out of Babylon. That's why many can go wherever they choose to go, whether it's to Africa or whatever. And many of them are bringing perversions with them over to where they go to or travel to. Because guess what? They still have Babylon inside their heart. So no matter where you go at, if you haven't released Babylon from your spirit, you're still in sin. You're still in the system. Now, family, I can say firsthand that I came out of the Babylonian system. I was in Freemasonry. I walked away from it. Thank Yah for saving me, for his saving grace. I thank the Most High for his mercies, which endures forever. So this is how I'm able to identify a lot of this stuff. I was pretty heavily into it. But again, as you see here, yes, that's right. I see the post here, like the comment here about Taunta. Excuse me if I mispronounce your name. That it looks like up in DC. It absolutely does. It looks just like DC. Split image, and it was Freemasons that built DC. The layout of DC rather. They do the blueprint, the architectural design of DC and many other cities, major cities. All right. So again, you see the perversions here, right? And you see This is a clear example of the Roman Catholic Church embracing and mixing and meshing other belief systems into one. That's how they're able to grow as quick as, or to the scale that they are at right now outside of slavery. Okay, let's continue here. So do not participate or continue to participate in her corruption. Now, we already know this here. I don't have to go to the details of this here, but this is proof for those that are struggling with coming out of Babylon, right? A clear sign of many of our brothers and sisters that are still in Babylon is how they approach the Shabbat. Let me say that again. How they approach the Shabbat. Because many brothers and sisters that call themselves teaching in this awakening, they are still holding on to Christian doctrine, Christian philosophies, which they use the term theology behind it. Because anyone that comes up with excuses of why not to honor these Shabbats, guess what, family? They still connected to the system. Let me say that again. They are still connected to the system. If you really want to honor Shabbat, nothing will stop you. All right. So the Converse Catechism of Catholic Doctrine. So what does the Catholic Church says about the feast days? This is coming from their own source, family. Their own source. Holy days is of devotion, feast days, which we are recommended to keep holy. Now, notice what it says here. It says, it mentioned feast days, but it says it's a recommendation. This is not mandatory, right? According to them, it's not mandatory. But then he said holy days of obligations, days which we must keep as Sundays. So this is them in their organization taking the commandments of Yah and now using the commandments or traditions of their elders to put that above the commandments of the Most High, right? Isaiah chapter 56 completely slams this. Has nothing to do with honoring Sunday services, a man-made day of worship. So which is the Sabbath? Which is the Sabbath day? This is a question that's asked inside this catechism. Why do we observe Sunday instead of Saturday? And this is their own words, family. What is the third commandment? Really, it's the fourth commandment. The third commandment is remember that thou keep holy the Sabbath day. Right? And it says here, why do we observe Sunday instead of Saturday? So they make it clear in the question here, which is the Sabbath day, it says Saturday is the Sabbath day. So they clear their doctrine that Saturday is the Shabbat. But they say here, why do we observe Sunday instead of Saturday? We observe Sunday instead of Saturday because the Catholic Church and the Council of Laodicea in 336 transferred the solemnity from Saturday to Sunday. So you see here, they're the ones that changed for their organization, which they have no power over. So why did the Catholic Church substitute Sunday for Saturday? By whose authority? This is in their catechisms. This is the authority. He said the church substituted Sunday for Saturday because Christ rose from the dead on Sunday. Look at this right here. Christ rose from the dead on a Sunday, and the Holy Ghost it says descended upon the apostles on a Sunday. Family, this is an absolute lie. Christ did not. He was resurrected on the Shabbat. You can't have both of these days falling on the same day at all. 50 days from the Shabbat, yes, the day of Pentecost, right, would have occurred 50 days from the Shabbat. But anyway, it says, by what authority? The church substituted Sunday for Saturday by the plenitude of that divine power which Jesus Christ bestowed upon her. There's not a single biblical passage of Christ giving the Roman Catholics, the Christian church, the power to change the covenant. See, when you change this particular commandment, you're changing the covenant. The 10 commandments, right, is the words of the covenant. And within the words of the covenant, the fourth commandment is honoring Shabbat. All right. So according to the Catholic Church, the commandment for Shabbat written in the covenant hinders Sunday worship. Right? That's what they said. They make it clear that according to Catholic Church, the commandment for the Shabbat written in the covenant, in their covenant, right? In the covenant rather, hinders Sunday worship. So let's go back here. Let me see here. I thought I had the screen put here. Oh, I don't. My apologies, family. I thought I had it in here. Let me see if I can see it in the backdrop here. All right. Anyway. So 5 reasons are given why Yahweh will destroy the city, this great city. Right now, let me go ahead and fix this slide here. We'll go a little longer, family, but then we get ready to wrap it up. It's a lot to this presentation. Bear with me 1 second. Let me fix this slide here. All right, I was trying to clean it up a little bit. Bear with me 1 second. I'm just fixing the slide. All right, almost there, family. Just want to clean up this slide a little bit. It's kind of out of whack. All right. Almost there. All right, almost there, family. Let me just clear. I'm just clearing the slide up. Let me see first. All right. I think that should do it. Let me see if there's any other slides, and that should do it pretty much. All right, one more slide. Let me remove this. So we'll go a little longer, family. This is a pretty lengthy lesson. I know I can't get it all done tonight because if I try to go through it, we'll be up here till about 3 a.m. Not trying to do that. All right, let's fix this. All right, any others? Let me look now here. That should do it. All right, let's deal with this here. Let's deal with these 5 reasons. So, all right, 5 reasons are given why Yahweh will destroy the city. All right, 5 reasons. 1, Babylon will be destroyed because of spiritual corruption. 2, Babylon, the great capital city, will be destroyed because the city corrupted nations, kings, and merchants. 3, Babylon will be destroyed because the city will corrupt people through secularism. 4, Babylon will be destroyed because the city will take the lead in persecuting Yah's chosen people, which they already did, right? We're Yah's chosen people. And they at the front line, the top of the food chain, so to speak, oppressing us. Number 5, Babylon will be destroyed because of her self-glory, pride, selfish extravagance, and indulgence. going to be destroyed. And here's a sample of the self-pride, the self-glory. Let me play this video here real quick. We're going to summarize this, and then we're going to wrap this up here in a bit. Let me see here. This is an example of pride among these religious systems, Babylonian systems.
And you know what else, Jim? I just want to say this to our Christian friends, you know, just to call it as it is and say it straight out, you know, you guys are worshiping one Jew. That's a mistake. You should be worshiping every single one of us, because we all die for your sins every single day. And that's exactly what's going on here.
Yeah.
We're all God's firstborn, and we're dying for your sins right now because the Jewish people in the land of Israel are the bulwark against the orcs.
Mhm.
Okay? The orcs are coming not to a theater near you, but to your home.
So did you catch that, family? Pride, self-glory, pride, selfish, extravagance, indulgence. That's just a sample of why the Most High is going to, you know, Babylon is going to be destroyed. Babylon is going to be destroyed. This is why I say again, Babylon, we're dealing with systems of men. We're not dealing with physical location. We're dealing with systems of men. This is a universal system. A universal system. All right. So wrapping this up here, family. I'll go a little longer here. The commonality and the characteristics between the Babylonian or the Babylons mentioned in Jeremiah, which was written in the 6th century BC, and the Babylon in the book of Revelation, which was written sometime in the 1st century AD. So in Jeremiah, Babylon made all of the earth drunk by her wine. And in Revelation, the kings and inhabitants of the earth have been made drunk with the wine of her fornication. So this wine of Babylon is an intoxicating mixture that is born of fornication. So are there any other clues in the Bible that tells us what this fornication could be? And it says here, made all the earth drunken. It says it made all the earth drunken. The nations have drunken her of her wine. Excuse me. So, what or who is the wine? When we go to Revelation 17:6, it gives us more details on the wine, and we still dealing with the bride. We just got down to verse 6, family. All this time, going passage by passage, we just made it down to verse 6. It says, and I saw the woman drunketh with the blood of the saints. In other words, this is dealing with Israel, the blood of Israel, and with the blood of the martyrs of Yahushua. And when I saw her, I wondered with great admiration. Let me say that again. And I saw the woman drunken with the blood of the holy people. That's where you see Quadayash, coming from the primitive root word Quadash, right? And the holy people, we're dealing with Israel. And with the blood of the martyrs of Yahushua. And when I saw her, I wondered with great admiration. So let's deal with this word saint real quick. It says saint, a holy relic, holy consecrated. But then when we go down here, it says adopted into most Germanic. Did I put it all here? Should be adopted into most Germanic languages. So I didn't have that entire bullet here. But it says originally an adjective prefixed to the name of a canonized person. By 1300, it came to be regarded as a noun. In other words, meaning person of extraordinary holiness. But this is the key, family. This word saint, when they created this word saint, it wasn't for Yah's holy people. It was for them. That's why you see here originally an adjective prefix to the name of a canonized person. This has nothing to do with Israel. When you see that word saint, that's not truly the transliteration of that is not to point to Yah's people. It's to point to this religious system called Roman Catholicism. So you see here originally an adjective prefix to the name of a canonized person. So the etymology dictionary says the word saint is the name of a canonized person. So let's go to the deceptive understanding of this word saint. Let's go to sainthood. Look at what it says about sainthood. For all those beautified, both martyrs and confessors, to be canonized, one miracle is required. It must be proven that this event took place through the intercession of the blessed, and after the date of his or her beatification. The process of canonization is very complex and thorough. A record number of saints have been canonized in the past 30 years, and about 20,000 candidates are being evaluated. Guess what? They don't have no power. They can't determine who's Yah's holy people. See, we were born into the blood of the ancient Israelites. Guess what? Every last one of us, we are Yah's holy chosen people. See, their process is for someone that died. So after someone dies in the Roman Catholic Church, they see if they performed a miracle, then they deem that they are saints, so to speak, holy. Nah, that's not biblical. Israelites, we are Yah's chosen people. We don't need a religious organization trying to determine that we are holy. No, we don't need that. All right. So when we look at the Hebrew definition of the transliterated word saint, this is what it's going to take us back to. Right. It says here, Quadayash or Quadish. All right. Let's see here. It says saint, holy, separate. But you'll see this word in Daniel chapter 7. All right. But let's go to the primitive root word, as I pointed out, of the transliterated word saint. Let's go to the primitive root word. Look at what it says. It says quadash. Here it is. Quadash. Claim, consecrate, dedicate, keep, proclaim, purify, sanctify. Notice it says this is the primitive root word. I want to make sure you guys understand. I know many of you guys may say Kodesh. Kodesh is not that's of the Israeli influence, because there was no O sounds in ancient Hebrew. That O sound back in the 9th century, that colon vav, which makes the O sound, which pronounce ah. So the primitive root word is actually quadash. So the transliterated word saint is actually referring to Israel. So in every verse you see the word saint did not originally refer to Israel, but to the Roman Catholics. Fact. So we see here that this woman was drunk. And let's see what it means to be drunk. We see here shakar, to become tipsy, to satiate with a stimulating drink. Influence, in other words, drink, be filled with drink. Drunk, be or make drunk. Be merry. So drunk, shakar, in Hebrew means to become tipsy, to be filled by the influence. Let's bring this all together. So the bride of the serpent, became drunk and filled with influence in taking the life of the Israelites. Oh, here we go again. Let me say this again. The bride of the serpent became drunk and filled with the influence in taking the life of the Israelites. Let's look at bloodthirsty. Let's see what this means real quick. We see the word dam. It says, or dama, dam or dama. It says blood, as which when shed causes death of a man, bloodshed. But then we see here blood, bloody, blood guiltiness, blood thirsty. That's the key. Bloodthirsty. All right, let's bring this all together. So the bride of the serpent became drunk and filled with the influence of of innocent bloodshed. Let me read that again. The bride of the serpent became drunk and filled with the influence of innocent bloodshed. Let's compare this and prove that this is Israel. So when we go to 2 Kings, chapter 11, verse 1 and 2, we're going to see the parallel here. When Athaliah, it says here, the mother of Azariah, I can't even say it now. Ahaziah saw that her son was dead. She arose and destroyed all the seed royal. So we see here Athaliah, she was a queen of Israel. She saw that her son was dead. She decided to kill the royal seed of Israel. She was blood drunk. But Josheba, the daughter of King Joram, sister of Ahaziah, took Joash, the son of Ahaziah, and stole him from among the king's son, which was slain, and they hid him, even unto him and his nurse, and in the bedchamber from Athaliah, so that he was not slain. So when the queen mother Athaliah received the report that her son Ahaziah had been killed by Jehu, she immediately made her move to claim the kingdom of Israel for herself. So without hesitation, she killed all the heirs to the throne, the entire royal family, and assumed power. So this is parallel to what we see with the transatlantic world war, because this is what happened to us. This is what happened to our ancestors. This religious system made it a point to try to completely wipe out Yah's people. Psalms 83, the Psalms 83 project, right? The 83rd book of Psalms project. The crafty council made it clear that they wanted to wipe out Yah's people, blood drunk. Transatlantic World War, right? So Queen Athaliah murdered her own grandchildren. Filled with a spirit of worldly ambition, Athaliah hungered for the power to rule. In a murderous rampage, she eliminated all competitors, the royal seed, who is the Israelites, the men. Athaliah was drunken by the blood of the saints, actually the blood of the Israelites, right? Let me make sure you understand that. She was drunk off the blood of the Israelites. So Athaliah is drunken from the blood of the royal, from the seed royal again, right? So going back to Revelation, it says, made all the earth drunken and the nations drunken of her wine. And we could go to King Leopold. This is still dealing with this system. Now, family, I'm not going to go through all of this. I'm going to use this as an opportunity to pause, because we could break this up into two parts, because I still got a ways to go in this presentation. This presentation is about 300 slides. And I think right now we're like halfway. Yeah, we got a ways to go, family. So we'll be up here for a while. So I'm not going to keep you guys up beyond the late night hours. Appreciate you guys. We'll continue this next week. So family, I want to thank you guys for the love and support. Thank you guys for supporting this channel. I'll get back into my routine of doing lives on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, and uploading videos, content here. I know we're getting ready to prepare for the Feast of Tabernacles. So it'll be still on the minimum this upcoming week. But once we get past the feast days, we'll get right back into the flow of things. So I know this is a last minute lesson. I was supposed to do a different teaching. We'll do that Thursday. But with that being said, family, let me give some shout outs here. I see some contributions here. Let's give some shout outs here. Shout out to Reload. Praise Yah, regret. Praise Yah, regret are on point. All right. But thank you, Reload. Appreciate the love and support. Lakini Kenya. Thank you for the love and support, the super sticker. Really appreciate you. Heavenly Father, we just ask that you just bless your people. Just continue to bless us. Continue to cover and keep us through the snares, the traps that we have to navigate through in this life, in this territory that we live in. Heavenly Father, just cover your people. Just cover your people. We say ma zabak, which means to slaughter anything, any weapons that the enemy, any agendas that the hidden agendas of the enemy slaughtered. Make it so that way it doesn't exist. Completely tear it down. In the name of Yahweh Shah HaMashiach, we pray. In the words of the Most High that he gave to Moses in Exodus chapter 14, verse 13 and 14, fear ye not, stand still, see the salvation of Yahweh. These Egyptians that you see here today, you will never have to deal with them ever again. The Most High will fight for you. But here's the kicker, family. We have to hold our peace. Can't go back. Can't stay here. Keep moving forward. And I want to give a shout out to Berean Scholar. Got to give you a call. If not tonight, I'll definitely give you a call tomorrow, Pastor. Family, go to Berean Scholar. He's been putting in a lot of work. Let's get him to at least 1,000 subscribers. Let's help build that channel and other platforms that are putting out this truth. And he's really laboring. I mean, when I say he's putting in a lot of work, high quality videos. And I believe he just did a video on Pastor Darby. So I encourage you guys, go watch his channel, go to his channel, top-notch content that's there. So with that being said, really appreciate you again, my brother. Thank you for the love and support. And let me give a quick shout out here because I just saw a super chat come in. Demi, excuse me if I mispronounce it, Demio. Thank you for the super sticker, family. Let's show some love and support. Really appreciate it again for all that contributed tonight. So again, fear ye not, stand still, see the salvation of Yahweh. These Egyptians that you see here today would never have power over you ever again. The Most High will fight for you. But here's the kicker, family. We must hold our peace. Can't go back. Can't stay here. Guess what, family? Keep moving forward. Shalom.
Listen. Listen. Genesis chapter 11, verse 10 explains the genealogy of Shem. Shem was a black man in Africa. If you repeat this back, Genesis 14, verse 13, Abraham steps on the scene. Being a descendant of Shem, which is a fact, means Abraham too was black. Abraham, born in the city of a black man, called Nimrod, grandson of Ham. Ham had 4 sons. One was named Canaan. Here, let me do some explaining. Abraham, Isaac was the... Jacob had 12 sons, for real, and these were the children of Israel. According to Genesis chapter 10, these were the children of Israel. According to Genesis chapter 10.